The morning sun cast long shadows across the perfectly manicured gardens of Kensington Palace as Camilla, the queen consort, walked briskly toward the main entrance. Her heels clicked against the stone pathway with determined precision, each step echoing her growing frustration with the day's events. She had arrived earlier than expected, hoping to spend quality time with her step-granddaughter, Princess Charlotte, but the morning had not unfolded as she had planned. Inside the palace, Charlotte sat in the sunlit drawing room, her small fingers wrapped around a porcelain teacup as she practiced the proper way to hold it during afternoon tea. At 9 years old, she had already mastered many of the royal protocols, but today she seemed more interested in the colorful butterflies dancing outside the tall windows than in perfecting her posture. Her governess, Miss Thompson, watched patiently as Charlotte's attention drifted between her lessons and the garden beyond. The relationship between Camilla and the Wales children had always been delicate, requiring careful navigation through years of complex family dynamics. While she had worked tirelessly to build genuine connections with George, Charlotte, and Louis, there were still moments when the weight of history and protocol created unexpected challenges. Today would prove to be one of those moments, though none of them could have predicted how dramatically the afternoon would unfold. As Camilla approached the palace entrance, she noticed an unusual amount of activity among the security staff. Royal protection officers moved with heightened alertness, their radio communications more frequent than usual. Something had shifted in the carefully orchestrated world of royal security, though the specific details remained unclear to most observers. The queen consort paused momentarily, her experienced eye noting the subtle changes in the atmosphere around her. Inside the palace walls, Charlotte had finished her tea lesson and was now eagerly anticipating a planned visit to the royal mews to see the horses. She had been looking forward to this outing for days, having recently developed a passionate interest in equestrian activities. Her small suitcase sat packed by the door, containing everything she would need for what was supposed to be an overnight stay at Clarence House with Camilla. The young princess had grown fond of these special grandmother-granddaughter adventures, which often included trips to museums, theaters, or simply quiet evenings reading together in Camilla's private study. The morning's schedule had been meticulously planned weeks in advance, with every detail coordinated between the households of the Wales family and Clarence House. Charlotte's parents, William and Catherine, had approved the overnight visit, recognizing the importance of maintaining strong family relationships despite their increasingly busy royal schedules. The Prince and Princess of Wales were attending a state function that evening, making Camilla's offer to care for Charlotte both convenient and meaningful for the family's ongoing unity. However, as Camilla made her way through the security checkpoint, she encountered an unexpected obstacle. The senior royal protection officer on duty, Commander Harrison, stepped forward with an expression that immediately caught her attention. His usually respectful demeanor carried an undertone of authority that suggested this would not be a routine interaction. The commander had served the royal family for over 15 years, and his experience in handling delicate situations was about to be put to the test. Commander Harrison approached Camilla with measured steps, his hand resting lightly on his radio device. The conversation that followed would be conducted in hushed tones, away from the curious ears of other staff members and the ever-present possibility of media attention. Royal protocol demanded discretion in all matters, but this particular situation required an especially careful approach given the individuals involved and the potential implications for the broader royal family. The queen consort's expression shifted from mild curiosity to growing concern as Commander Harrison began to explain the situation. New security protocols had been implemented that morning, affecting all movements involving the younger members of the royal family. These changes, while temporary, had immediate implications for planned activities and visits. The timing could not have been more unfortunate, given Charlotte's excitement about her planned overnight stay and the careful coordination that had gone into arranging the visit. As the conversation continued, other members of the palace staff began to take notice of the unusual discussion taking place at the entrance. Miss Thompson, Charlotte's governess, appeared in the doorway of the drawing room, her trained eye immediately recognizing that something significant was occurring. Her years of experience in royal households had taught her to read the subtle signs of disruption in the otherwise perfectly orchestrated daily routines of palace life. Charlotte, blissfully unaware of the developing situation, continued to gaze out the window at the garden, occasionally glancing toward the entrance hall where she expected Camilla to appear at any moment. Her small hands fidgeted with excitement as she imagined the afternoon's planned activities. The young princess had inherited her mother's grace and her father's sense of adventure, making her an enthusiastic participant in family outings and educational experiences. The security protocols that had been implemented that morning were the result of intelligence received overnight by the Metropolitan Police's Protection Command. While the specific details were classified, the measures were considered necessary to ensure the safety of all royal family members, particularly the younger generation. These protocols, though disruptive, reflected the serious responsibility that security professionals carried in protecting one of the world's most recognizable families. Commander Harrison's years of experience had taught him that even the most well-intentioned family interactions could become complicated when security concerns arose. His primary responsibility was always the safety and protection of the royal family, even when that meant making difficult decisions that could disappoint or frustrate family members. The balance between maintaining normal family relationships and ensuring adequate security was a constant challenge in his role. As their conversation drew to a close, Camilla's understanding of the situation became clear, though her disappointment was evident in her carefully controlled expression. The queen consort had always prided herself on her ability to adapt to changing circumstances, a skill that had served her well throughout her years in public life. However, the thought of disappointing Charlotte weighed heavily on her mind, particularly given the young princess's obvious excitement about their planned time together. The morning's events had set in motion a series of decisions and conversations that would ripple through the carefully planned schedules of multiple royal households. What had begun as a simple family visit was now complicated by security considerations that, while necessary, would require careful explanation and alternative arrangements. The challenge now lay in finding a way to balance security requirements with family relationships and the expectations of a 9-year-old princess who was eagerly waiting for her adventure to begin. The tension in the entrance hall was palpable as Camilla processed the information Commander Harrison had shared with her. The new security protocols were not merely suggestions, but mandatory directives that had come from the highest levels of government security agencies. The queen consort understood the gravity of the situation, yet her heart ached at the thought of the disappointment this would cause Charlotte, who had been counting down the days until their special outing together. Commander Harrison maintained his professional demeanor while explaining the specifics of the enhanced security measures. The protocols required all movements of royal family members under the age of 16 to be pre-approved through additional channels, with at least 48 hours' notice for any location changes. This meant that Charlotte's planned overnight stay at Clarence's house, while previously approved, now fell under the new restrictions and could not proceed as scheduled without proper clearance through the updated security framework. Inside the drawing room, Charlotte had grown restless waiting for Camilla's arrival. She walked to the tall windows overlooking the entrance courtyard and pressed her small face against the cool glass, trying to catch a glimpse of the familiar figure she was expecting. Her governess, Miss Thompson, approached gently and suggested they review Charlotte's French vocabulary while they waited, but the young princess was too excited about her upcoming adventure to concentrate on lessons. The implementation of these security measures had been swift and decisive, catching even senior household staff off guard. The private secretary's office had been notified just after dawn, leaving little time to adjust the day's carefully coordinated schedules. Multiple phone calls were already being made between various royal households, attempting to navigate the new requirements while minimizing disruption to family plans and public engagements. Camilla's mind raced through possible alternatives as she continued her conversation with Commander Harrison. Her relationship with Charlotte had developed beautifully over the years, built through countless shared experiences, bedtime stories, and gentle guidance. The queen consort had worked diligently to create meaningful connections with all of William and Catherine's children, understanding the delicate balance required in her role as both stepmother to their father and grandmother figure to them. The security officer explained that while the restrictions were significant, they were not necessarily permanent. The enhanced protocols were being implemented as a precautionary measure, following intelligence reports that, while not specific, suggested increased attention should be paid to the security of younger royal family members. This type of proactive approach was standard procedure in royal protection, erring always on the side of caution when it came to the safety of the family. As the conversation continued, Other members of the household staff began to gather at a respectful distance, sensing the importance of the discussion taking place. The head housekeeper, Mrs. Patterson, emerged from the domestic quarters with a concerned expression, having already received word that the day's arrangements might be changing. Her 25 years of service in royal households had taught her to be prepared for sudden adjustments to even the most carefully planned schedules. Charlotte's excitement began to turn to worry as she noticed the serious expressions of the adults gathered in the entrance hall. Though she could not hear the specifics of their conversation, her intuitive understanding of adult behavior told her that something was not going according to plan. She turned to Miss Thompson with questioning eyes, seeking reassurance that her anticipated adventure with Camilla would still take place as promised. Commander Harrison's radio crackled with updates from his team, who were monitoring the situation from their control room. The security protocols were being implemented across all royal residences simultaneously, requiring coordination between multiple protection units and government agencies. The complexity of maintaining security for a large extended family with numerous residences and public commitments required constant vigilance and adaptability. The Queen Consort's years of experience in royal life had taught her the importance of accepting security decisions with grace, even when they created personal disappointment. She understood that the protection officers were doing their jobs, and that their primary concern was always the safety of the family. However, this understanding did not diminish her concern about explaining the situation to Charlotte in a way that would minimize the child's disappointment. As the reality of the situation became clear, Camilla began considering alternative ways to spend time with Charlotte that would comply with the new security requirements. Perhaps they could arrange activities within the palace grounds, or she could extend her visit to include lunch and afternoon tea in the familiar surroundings of Kensington Palace. The Queen Consort was determined not to let security protocols completely derail their planned time together. Miss Thompson approached the group carefully, her professional instincts telling her that her input might be needed in managing Charlotte's expectations and emotional response to any changes in plans. The governess had developed a close relationship with the young princess and understood her personality well enough to know that sudden changes to anticipated events could be particularly challenging for Charlotte to process. The conversation between Camilla and Commander Harrison had reached a crucial point where decisions needed to be made about how to proceed. The security officer had outlined the restrictions clearly, but he also understood the importance of family relationships within the royal household. His role required him to find ways to maintain security while allowing for meaningful family interactions whenever possible within the established parameters. Charlotte's small suitcase, still packed and waiting by the door, seemed to symbolize the collision between family hopes and security realities. The young princess had carefully selected items for her overnight adventure, including her favorite stuffed animal, a new book her mother had given her, and the special dress she wanted to wear to afternoon tea at Clarence's house. These simple preparations represented her genuine excitement about spending time with Camilla. The broader implications of the enhanced security measures were beginning to become apparent to those involved in the conversation. These protocols would likely affect not just today's plans but numerous future family activities and public engagements. The challenge would be finding ways to maintain the relatively normal family life that William and Catherine worked so hard to provide for their children while ensuring their safety in an increasingly complex security environment. As morning turned toward afternoon, the need for a resolution became more pressing. Charlotte's patience was beginning to wear thin, and the other planned activities of the day would need to be adjusted regardless of the final decision about her visit with Camilla. The young princess deserved an explanation that she could understand and accept, even if the adult reasons behind the security measures were too complex for her young mind to fully grasp. The weight of disappointment was evident in Camilla's expression as she realized that the overnight visit she and Charlotte had both anticipated would not be possible under the current security constraints. However, her determination to find an alternative way to maintain their close relationship and create positive memories together remained strong, even as the specific plans for the day continued to evolve in unexpected directions. The moment of truth had arrived, as Camilla made her way toward the drawing room where Charlotte waited, her mind still processing the conversation with Commander Harrison. Each step felt heavier than the last as she prepared to deliver news that would disappoint the eager young princess. The Queen Consort had faced many challenging moments in her royal duties, but explaining security concerns to a 9-year-old while maintaining her enthusiasm and love required a particularly delicate approach. Charlotte looked up from her position by the window as Camilla entered the room, her face immediately brightening with excitement. The young princess had been practicing her curtsy and was eager to demonstrate her improved technique, unaware that the day's plans were about to change dramatically. Her innocent joy made the coming conversation even more difficult for Camilla, who cherished these moments of pure happiness in Charlotte's expression. Miss Thompson discreetly positioned herself near the doorway, ready to provide support if needed during what she anticipated would be a challenging conversation. Her experience with royal children had taught her that unexpected changes to plans often required careful emotional management, particularly when the children had been looking forward to special events. The governess understood that her role extended beyond education, to include helping the children navigate the unique challenges of royal life. Camilla settled into the chair beside Charlotte, her voice gentle but serious as she began to explain the situation. She chose her words carefully, focusing on the temporary nature of the security measures rather than dwelling on the specifics that might frighten a child. The Queen Consort emphasized that everyone's safety was the most important consideration, and that sometimes plans needed to change to ensure everyone remained protected and secure. The disappointment in Charlotte's eyes was immediate and heartbreaking as she began to understand that their planned overnight adventure would not happen as anticipated. The young princess had inherited both her parents' emotional intelligence and their ability to process difficult news with remarkable maturity for her age. However, she was still a child, and the tears that began to form in her eyes reflected the natural sadness that comes with dashed expectations. Commander Harrison remained in the entrance hall, monitoring the situation while giving the family space for their private conversation. His radio continued to provide updates from other royal residences, where similar conversations were taking place with other family members affected by the enhanced security protocols. The coordination required to implement these measures across the entire royal household was complex and ongoing throughout the day. As Charlotte processed the news, her quick mind began asking questions about why the security measures were necessary and how long they might last. Camilla answered as honestly as possible while being mindful of not creating unnecessary anxiety in the child's mind. The Queen Consort explained that sometimes grown-ups had to make decisions to keep everyone safe, even when those decisions were disappointing or inconvenient for family plans. The conversation took an unexpected turn when Charlotte, displaying wisdom beyond her years, suggested that perhaps they could still spend time together within the palace grounds. The young princess had grown up understanding that royal life sometimes required flexibility and adaptation, lessons learned from watching her parents navigate similar challenges. Her suggestion sparked hope in Camilla's heart and opened possibilities for salvaging their planned time together. Miss Thompson stepped forward to offer her perspective on activities that could be arranged within the secure environment of Kensington Palace. The governess suggested they could organize an impromptu tea party in the gardens, explore the palace's historical rooms, or perhaps arrange for Charlotte to show Camilla her latest art projects and school assignments. These alternatives, while different from the planned adventure, could still provide meaningful bonding time for grandmother and granddaughter. The palace staff quickly mobilized to support the adjusted plans, demonstrating the flexibility and dedication that characterized their service to the royal family. The head chef was consulted about preparing a special afternoon tea that could be served in the garden pavilion, while the head gardener ensured that the outdoor spaces would be properly prepared for their use. The ability to adapt quickly to changing circumstances was a hallmark of royal household operations. Charlotte's disappointment began to give way to curiosity about these alternative plans, though she remained somewhat subdued compared to her earlier excitement. The young princess appreciated Camilla's efforts to find ways to spend time together despite the restrictions, and her natural resilience began to emerge as she considered the possibilities for their modified afternoon. Her ability to adapt reflected the strong foundation her parents had built in preparing her for the unique aspects of royal life. As the new plans took shape, Camilla made a mental note to speak with William and Catherine about arranging the postponed overnight visit as soon as the security restrictions were lifted. She was determined that Charlotte should not feel that the security measures were permanent barriers to their relationship or to the special experiences they had planned together. The Queen Consort understood the importance of maintaining these family connections, despite the occasional disruptions caused by security requirements. The head of security for Kensington Palace joined the conversation to confirm which areas of the grounds would be available for their afternoon activities. His assessment indicated that the gardens, tea pavilion, and several of the ground-floor reception rooms could accommodate their visit while maintaining the required security protocols. This information helped shape the specific plans for how they would spend their time together within the modified arrangements. Charlotte's governess suggested incorporating some educational elements into the afternoon, perhaps exploring the historical artifacts in the palace's collection or discussing the botanical specimens in the gardens. Miss Thompson understood that learning opportunities helped Charlotte process experiences and could transform disappointment into discovery. The young princess had always shown enthusiasm for learning about her family's history and the heritage of the buildings she called home. The transformation of disappointment into anticipation began to take place as Charlotte started to see the adjusted plans as a different kind of adventure rather than a consolation prize. Her natural optimism, encouraged by Camilla's positive attitude and the creative alternatives being offered, helped her embrace the change in circumstances. The young princess began to ask questions about the specific activities they could enjoy together within the palace grounds. Commander Harrison received confirmation from his team that the planned activities within Kensington Palace would be fully supported by the existing security arrangements. The enhanced protocols that had prevented the original outing would not interfere with a garden tea party or explorations within the secure perimeter of the palace grounds. This news allowed everyone to proceed with confidence in the safety and appropriateness of their modified plans. The afternoon that had begun with such promise and then seemed threatened by security concerns was beginning to reshape itself into something unique and special in its own way. While different from the original vision, the impromptu celebration of grandmother-granddaughter time within the familiar surroundings of Kensington Palace carried its own charm and intimacy. Sometimes the most memorable moments came from unexpected changes to carefully laid plans. As preparations began for their afternoon together, both Camilla and Charlotte started to appreciate the silver lining in their changed circumstances. The intimate setting of the palace gardens would allow for more private conversation and connection than might have been possible during a busy outing to public venues. The security measures, while initially disappointing, had created an opportunity for a different kind of bonding experience that might prove even more meaningful than the original plans. The afternoon sun filtered through the ancient oak trees as Camilla and Charlotte made their way to the garden pavilion, where palace staff had arranged an elegant tea service that rivaled anything they might have enjoyed at Clarence's house. The disappointment of the morning had gradually transformed into anticipation as the young princess discovered that their adjusted plans offered unique opportunities for exploration and bonding within the familiar yet always fascinating grounds of Kensington Palace. Charlotte's natural curiosity began to emerge as she pointed out various flowers and architectural details to Camilla, taking pride in sharing her knowledge of her home with her step-grandmother. The palace gardens, which she saw daily but rarely had the chance to explore thoroughly with adult company, suddenly seemed full of new possibilities for adventure and discovery. Her enthusiasm was infectious, and Camilla found herself seeing the familiar surroundings through fresh eyes. The tea service had been prepared with special attention to Charlotte's preferences, including her favorite cucumber sandwiches and the petite fours that reminded her of special occasions with her family. The palace chef had outdone himself in creating a spread that would make this impromptu garden party feel just as special as any formal meal they might have shared elsewhere. The attention to detail demonstrated the staff's genuine care for the young princess, and their understanding of how important this time with Camilla was to her. As they settled into their seats at the beautifully appointed table, Charlotte began to relax completely for the first time since learning about the changed plans. The familiar surroundings, combined with Camilla's undivided attention and the special effort everyone had made to create a memorable afternoon, helped her realize that sometimes unexpected changes could lead to equally wonderful experiences. Her natural resilience and optimism, traits inherited from both parents, allowed her to fully embrace the moment. Camilla seized the opportunity to engage Charlotte in conversation about her school subjects, her friends, and her growing interests in art and music. The queen consort had always been genuinely interested in the children's development and took these conversations seriously, understanding that her role in their lives extended far beyond ceremonial appearances. She asked thoughtful questions that encouraged Charlotte to share her thoughts and feelings about various aspects of her young life. The conversation flowed naturally from topic to topic, covering everything from Charlotte's latest piano lessons to her thoughts about a recent family trip to Scotland. The young princess had inherited her parents' eloquence and enjoyed having an adult listener who was genuinely interested in her perspectives and experiences. These moments of connection were precisely what made the relationship between Camilla and Charlotte so special and meaningful. Miss Thompson observed the interaction from a respectful distance, noting how well Charlotte responded to individual attention from family members. The governess understood the importance of these relationships in the young princess's emotional development and was pleased to see how naturally the conversation flowed between Camilla and her charge. The afternoon was proving to be beneficial for both participants in ways that might not have been possible during a busier outing. As they enjoyed their tea, Charlotte surprised Camilla by asking thoughtful questions about the queen consort's own childhood and experiences growing up. The young princess had developed a sophisticated understanding of family dynamics and was genuinely curious about the adults in her life beyond their roles as authority figures. Her questions demonstrated the emotional intelligence that had impressed family members and staff throughout her short life. The security presence around them was discreet but evident, with protection officers positioned strategically throughout the gardens while maintaining the privacy and intimacy of the grandmother-granddaughter gathering. Commander Harrison's team had successfully created an environment that was both secure and comfortable, allowing the family members to interact naturally while ensuring all safety protocols were maintained according to the enhanced requirements. Charlotte's laughter echoed through the garden as Camilla shared amusing stories from her various royal duties and travels around the world. The queen consort had a gift for storytelling that captured Charlotte's imagination while also providing subtle lessons about public service, cultural understanding, and the responsibilities that came with royal life. These conversations served multiple purposes: entertaining while educating and bonding while building character. The afternoon progressed with a leisurely exploration of the palace's historical rooms that Charlotte rarely had the opportunity to visit with such focused attention from an adult family member. Camilla's knowledge of royal history and her personal experiences within these spaces added depth and meaning to rooms that Charlotte had previously seen mainly in passing. The young princess was fascinated by the stories and connections that brought the palace's heritage to life. In the blue drawing room, Charlotte was particularly captivated by portraits of previous generations of royal family members, asking Camilla to help her identify relatives and understand their relationships to her own family tree. The queen consort's patient explanations helped Charlotte develop a stronger sense of her place within the long continuum of royal history and tradition. These genealogical discussions were both educational and emotionally meaningful for the young princess. The visit to the palace's collection of royal artifacts proved to be another highlight of their adjusted afternoon plans. Charlotte examined various items with the careful attention she had learned to apply to historical objects, asking intelligent questions about their origins and significance. Camilla was impressed by the depth of Charlotte's curiosity and her ability to make connections between different pieces of information about her family's heritage. As the afternoon drew toward its natural conclusion, neither Camilla nor Charlotte seemed ready for their time together to end. The unplanned intimacy of their palace-based visit had created opportunities for deeper conversation and connection that might not have been possible during the originally planned activities. The security restrictions that had initially seemed like obstacles had inadvertently created space for a different kind of meaningful experience. Charlotte's energy remained high throughout the afternoon, sustained by the genuine interest Camilla showed in her thoughts and experiences. The young princess had blossomed under the individual attention, displaying confidence and articulation that impressed everyone who observed their interactions. Her natural charm and intelligence were given full scope to develop during these extended one-on-one conversations with her step-grandmother. The palace staff who had worked to accommodate the changed plans took satisfaction in seeing how successful the afternoon had become despite its unusual beginning. Their flexibility and creativity in arranging alternative activities had contributed significantly to transforming a potentially disappointing day into a memorable experience for both family members. The dedication and professionalism of the household staff were evident in every detail of the afternoon's execution. As evening approached, both Camilla and Charlotte began to acknowledge that their special time together was drawing to a close, but neither expressed regret about the way the day had unfolded. The security measures that had prevented their planned overnight adventure had led to an equally valuable but different kind of bonding experience. Sometimes the most meaningful moments emerged from unexpected circumstances, rather than carefully planned events. The success of their modified afternoon had demonstrated that family relationships could flourish even within the constraints imposed by security requirements and royal protocols. The love and connection between Camilla and Charlotte had found expression through adaptability and creativity, rather than being diminished by changed circumstances. Their relationship had proven resilient enough to transform challenges into opportunities for deeper understanding and affection. As the golden hour light began to paint the palace gardens in warm amber tones, Camilla and Charlotte found themselves walking slowly along the rose-lined pathways, neither quite ready to bring their unexpected afternoon adventure to its natural conclusion. The day that had begun with such promise, then seemed threatened by security concerns, had evolved into something uniquely special that neither had anticipated when they first made their plans weeks earlier. Charlotte's small hand slipped naturally into Camilla's as they paused beside the fountain at the center of the main garden, watching the water catch and reflect the evening light. The young princess had grown thoughtful as their time together wound down, processing not just the events of the day, but the deeper lessons about adaptability and family loyalty that had emerged from their shared experience of disappointment, transformed into discovery. The queen consort reflected on how much she had learned about Charlotte during their unstructured hours together, away from the formal settings and scheduled activities that usually characterized their interactions. The young princess had revealed depths of curiosity, emotional intelligence, and resilience that spoke well for her character development and her preparation for the unique responsibilities she would inherit as a member of the royal family. Commander Harrison maintained his discreet oversight of their activities while coordinating with his team about the transition back to normal security protocols as the afternoon visit concluded. The enhanced measures that had disrupted the morning's plans would remain in effect for several more days, but the successful adaptation of today's activities had demonstrated that family relationships could continue to flourish even within increased security constraints. "Bill said my business is over." Miss Thompson approached the pair with gentle reminders about Charlotte's evening routine and the need to begin transitioning toward dinner and bedtime preparations. The governess had observed the afternoon's activities with professional satisfaction, noting how well Charlotte had handled the emotional challenge of changed expectations, and how positively she had responded to the alternative arrangements that had been created for her special time with Camilla. Charlotte turned to Camilla with an expression that mixed gratitude with the slight sadness that always accompanied the end of cherished experiences. The young princess had discovered that their modified afternoon had offered pleasures and discoveries that might not have been possible during their originally planned outing. The intimate conversations, the detailed exploration of her home's history, and the undivided attention from her step-grandmother had created memories that would last far beyond this single afternoon. The palace staff, who had worked throughout the day to support the adjusted plans, gathered the tea service and prepared to restore the garden pavilion to its normal state. Their professional pride was evident in how smoothly they had managed the logistical challenges of creating special experiences within modified security parameters. The successful afternoon had validated their ability to adapt quickly and creatively when family plans required unexpected changes. As they made their way back toward the palace entrance where Camilla would depart, Charlotte began expressing her thoughts about the day's events with the articulate reflection that continued to impress the adults around her. The young princess understood that while disappointment had been involved in the morning's changes, the afternoon had proven that different could still mean wonderful when approached with the right attitude and creative thinking. Camilla paused at the entrance to have a final conversation with Commander Harrison, expressing her appreciation for his professional handling of the security concerns, while also acknowledging the successful way alternative arrangements had been implemented. The queen consort understood the complex balance that security professionals had to maintain between safety requirements and family relationship needs, and she wanted to recognize their efforts to find workable solutions. The formal conclusion of their visit included promises between Camilla and Charlotte to reschedule their overnight adventure as soon as security protocols permitted. The young princess accepted these assurances with the trust and optimism that characterized her approach to family relationships, understanding that the delay was temporary and that their special bond would continue to be nurtured through future planned activities and spontaneous moments, like today's garden exploration. Charlotte's farewell hug lingered a bit longer than usual as she expressed genuine gratitude for the unexpected pleasures of their afternoon together. The young princess had learned valuable lessons about resilience, adaptability, and finding joy in changed circumstances that would serve her well throughout her life in the public eye. Her natural warmth and emotional intelligence had turned a potentially difficult day into a celebration of family connection. Miss Thompson escorted Charlotte back to the family quarters, while Camilla completed her departure preparations. Both family members carrying with them the satisfaction of time well spent, despite the unconventional way their day had unfolded. The governess noted Charlotte's continued enthusiasm and positive energy as evidence that the afternoon had been emotionally nourishing rather than merely a consolation for disappointed expectations. The Queen Consort's journey back to Clarence House provided time for reflection on the day's lessons about family flexibility and the importance of maintaining relationships even when external circumstances created unexpected challenges. Her relationship with Charlotte had been strengthened rather than weakened by their shared experience of adapting to changed plans, and the intimate conversations they had shared would inform her understanding of the young princess's character and interests for years to come. Back in her palace quarters, Charlotte eagerly anticipated sharing the day's adventures with her parents when they returned from their state function that evening. The young princess had stories to tell about historical artifacts, family portraits, and garden discoveries that would help them understand how meaningful her time with Camilla had been despite the modified arrangements. Her excitement about these details demonstrated how fully she had embraced the alternative activities. The security protocols that had seemed so disruptive in the morning had ultimately led to an afternoon that none of the participants would forget. The intimate scale of their palace-based activities had allowed for conversations and explorations that might not have been possible during a busy public outing. Sometimes restrictions created opportunities for deeper experiences that wouldn't have emerged under normal circumstances. As night fell over Kensington Palace, the day's events settled into memory as an example of how royal family relationships could flourish even within the constraints of security requirements and protocol obligations. The love between Camilla and Charlotte had found expression through creativity and adaptability, rather than being diminished by external limitations. Their bond had proven strong enough to transform disappointment into discovery and challenges into opportunities for deeper connection. The success of their impromptu garden afternoon would influence future planning for family activities, demonstrating that meaningful experiences could be created within secure environments when approached with imagination and flexibility. The palace staff, security professionals, and family members had all contributed to turning a potentially disappointing day into a memorable celebration of the enduring power of family love to overcome obstacles and create joy even in unexpected circumstances.